everyone, and welcome back to your wedding series. Oh my goodness, it's a brand new day, and you know what that means? We are into another episode. So today we are going to be doing a little something different, and I'll explain to you as we go along. But for those that are joining, let's get into what is our wedding series, or should I say your wedding series. Your wedding series is planning your wedding before you're even proposed to. So before he even proposes, this is your wedding series. It's a slew of events that come along to tell your love story. Now, most people start planning their wedding when they get engaged, and that's fine. That works, right? But we are going to be planning your wedding from the beginning, and that means 14-year-old you. You were 14 years old, or you are 14 years old when you're watching this, and we are going to be planning your wedding for an entire year. And then we're going to be, I shouldn't say then, but as we are planning your wedding from 14-year-old you, that's not going to take very long. We're only going to be in that for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, right? And then we're going to fast forward all the way to when you actually get engaged. Now, that's going to be a different age for everybody. Not everybody is going to be the exact same age when they get proposed to. So, yeah, that's going to be up to, your time schedule and his time schedule. Your wedding series is a slew of events, like I said, and those events include, but don't have to include all of these events. It's going to include the proposal, obviously, he's got to ask you. And then it's going to include an engagement photo shoot, an engagement party with friends, family, coworkers, bridesmaids proposal once you figured out who's in the bridal party. And for some of you, I understand you probably won't even have one. Groomsmen proposal, if you are going to have groomsmen as part of your big day as well. A bachelorette party, a bachelor party, or a hen do, depending on what country you're in. And you're also going to be thinking about going dress shopping. I like to call it wedding gown shopping. Now, the other event that's really, really fun is the wedding shower or the bridal shower. Now, once again, not everybody has all of these events, not everybody wants all of these events, and not everybody can afford all of these events. But if you can, it's kind of fun to also have a welcome party for guests who don't live in the city or country where you're hosting your beautiful day. Also, there is the get ready with me on the morning of the wedding. So as the bride is getting ready, all of that is being captured as like a little mini event as well. And then you have the wedding day ceremony and reception. And we can't forget that there is a rehearsal dinner the night before the wedding, as well as getting to practice the wedding ceremony portion. So everyone gets together and gets to practice, because sometimes there are people in your wedding party that might be a little bit nervous. You've probably been practicing walking down the aisle in your living room or in your hallway, or down your staircase. But not everybody that's a part of your big wedding day has been practicing. So it's really, really good that you take the time to actually have a rehearsal. Let's talk a little bit about why I am here doing all of this. As your content creator, I provide wedding videography, but it's affordable, and you'll understand more as you continue to be a part of my platform. It's not going to be your $5,000 to $8,000 packages, depending on when you're watching this, because sometimes videographers and photographers can charge like that. But I am here to make sure that you are not holding your cell phone. Your guests aren't holding your cell phone. I know we live in a content creator life. We want to create content for everything. We want to capture all those moments. But that's my job, so that you can remain hands-free. I will be the only one carrying carrying a cell phone in my hand, so that you can remain hands-free during all of your wedding series events. You want to be able to tell your love story. And that's why you have all of these events, so that you can tell your love story. You're doing all of that. And as you do, I am helping you make sure that these things come to life. So, lights, camera, action. Let's start the show and get your love story to unfold. I've been waiting all day to say that, you guys. I came up with it myself. So, we are talking about preparing for your wedding before he proposes. This is episode 2 of your wedding series. And we are talking about how to be a wife, a mother, or a mom, and a helpmate. So let's talk a little bit about why it's important to prepare for marriage before you get married. Now, overall, this is this is part of your life that is also a part of your adulthood. So preparing for marriage before he proposes is also a part of who you are as an adult. And so these skills that we're going to be talking about today, these life skills, are going to help you not just with marriage, but with overall being an amazing adult. We're talking about developing essentials for life skills, such as cooking and nutrition, financial management, and household management. Now, when we talk about cooking and nutrition, let's take a pause. Let's take a small pause. So, when we talk about cooking and nutrition, something that people think about when they're young is Pop-Tarts, popcorn, things that make them feel like warm and cozy inside. And it's a lot of foods that aren't always good for us. And so learning how to cook proper foods and how the right nutrition is a very, very key aspect at this point of your life at being age 14. You don't want to find yourself kind of having ice cream for breakfast every single day. How can you provide for your family and make them food when you only love ice cream and cake? Which I know, I do too. I love ice cream and cake a lot, but I know that it's important that I don't eat that every single day. I have learned to incorporate vegetables and fruits into my everyday nutrition. I don't really like to call it a diet because I feel like when people say the word diet, it means that they are taking things away and being very, very sad about what they're eating. So I just say my nutrition and the things that I'm cooking for myself, right? So that when I became an adult, I got better at being able to cook the the better, I should say the better things. I shouldn't say the right thing, but the better things that I should be eating, incorporating into my nutrition. Now, let's not get it twisted. I still eat ice cream and cake. I just don't eat it every single day. That's not good for us, right? So, you want to be developing those skills at this time. Now, the other thing is financial, being able to balance your money. Now, I know a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'll just get an accountant for that. You may not be able to afford an accountant when you first become an adult or even when you first get married. So it's important for you to sit down and figure out how to balance your finances. At 14, you're not going to be working a job. But at 16, you will more than likely be wanting to work a job because you're going to want certain things. And so you're going to have to learn how to, spend a little, save a lot. And I say save a lot because there's a lot of expenses that come with being an adult, like insurance. You have to have insurance so that if something happens, you can go fix your car. You can go get, go to the hospital and get better. Things like that. If your house burns down, you can get a new one. Or hopefully, the insurance company can help you to get a new one because you've been paying them insurance. So these are things that it's important for you to understand that when you're 14 years old, go ahead and start learning them. I remember when I was in high school, it was so much fun. We actually got to go to this class where we had like a store for our school. And sometimes you see these even at like churches as well. But we had a store at our school, and you got to work in the store for high school credit. It was for part of your credit. So you got to understand what it feels like to like take money, put it into the register, count it back to somebody, seeing how much is left over at the end of the day and how much that the store made. It's a really good feeling to understand how to balance money and how to have a proper budget. So that helped me to get on my way. Also, my mom took the time out to have like those savings bonds, right? So she had these savings bonds for us, and we couldn't touch them until we were like 25. And so those savings bonds grew from the time we were like 8 years old or whatever when we put them in the bank. I think we were like 8 years old, 8 and 7. We put them in the bank, and then it grew over the years. So we got to watch that money grow. We got to see what it felt like to just put something in the bank and not touch it and watch it gain interest, right? So we got to learn about finances in that way. And then once we turned 25, we were able to take that money out and spend it as we wish or continue to save it, which is really, really nice. It was such a great life lesson, as well as we had bank accounts. So then we already started learning how to balance money at such young ages, like with our allowance and things like that. Now, not saying that we got like a ton of allowance, but it was just really cool that like whatever you had left over, you could go and like put it in the bank. And not everybody is excited about putting money into a bank. So my mom also taught us about like having the little piggy bank. So like ours wasn't a pig. It actually looked like a little bank. It was brown. We still have them to this day. It has like a little, it looks like a safe. It's really, really cool. It's got a little thing on it in order to like twist the security thingy on it, the numbers. And so we still have those. And like, it's really, really cool. So like, there are some people who like don't trust the bank and like they don't want to put their money in there, and that's okay. You don't have to. This is about you learning how to balance your money. My grandmother was one of those people that did not like putting her money into the bank. So I don't know what kind of piggy bank she had at home, but she never showed it to us. But I do know that she did not put her money into an actual bank, even though my mom tried so hard for her to do so. She was like, not having it. Then the next thing is like household management. And that's like your chores and, keeping a schedule and things like that when it comes to cleaning and organizing, like laundry and, grocery shopping and making sure you go get groceries and not forgetting to get them. Be titled Building Emotional Maturity. So building emotional maturity. And what does that look like exactly when you're trying to build your emotional maturity? Let's start with communication skills. So when we talk about communication skills, we are talking about how do you communicate with others? Not just your friends, not just your family, but how you communicate with people around you, like in the workplace or at school. And being respectful, understanding that using certain language is not respectful at any time, and let alone in certain situations. But I would say learning how to have respectful language for yourself at all times, and as well as the people that are hearing you speak. Going along with building emotional maturity is going to be learning to deal with conflict. So, conflict resolution. How are you acting when you get angry? And how is this going to help you in marriage? Obviously, this is going to help you in life, but when you are married to someone, you have to understand that there are going to be differences. You are two different people that have now decided to mush your life together and become one. You are not the same people. You think differently. First of all, one is a man and one is a woman. So you already have a different gender for yourselves, gender makeup. You also think differently. You also had different backgrounds when you were growing up. So, like, you had different parents or a different parent, depending on the situation. So, you can't think that, like, just because you got married, that even though, yes, we are told that when two become one, right? We are told that, but there still is going to be some conflict that is going to arise. There are going to be differences. And so you have to learn how to start dealing with conflict now at 14-year-old you. So that when you do get that proposal, it's not like you're learning for the first time how to communicate with somebody else or how to handle conflict with someone else. Now, going along with the building emotional maturity, our next bullet point is going to be self awareness. And self awareness includes journaling. This means that, like, you are taking time to learn about yourself. You're reflecting on, like, your growth in your life, and you are journaling. Now, I know that not everybody likes to take out a paper and pen to journal. And I know you guys are going to hear me say this a lot. I know, right? It's because I hear it all the time. People are like, "Well, that's not me. That's not how I do things." And we all say it, and that's okay. But even if you kept a mental journal of how you are growing as a human being, as a person, how you're growing around other people. It's important to reflect on things that we could do better and things that we are already getting really great at. I remember that when my niece came to stay with me, she was only 6 years old. Her first time when she came to stay with me, no parents around. She got to get on an airplane and come visit me, right? For an entire summer almost. And she would always hear me say, "Get your life together." She did not understand what it meant, but I did not know that she didn't understand what it meant until probably like maybe a whole month into her like being on vacation there with me, right? And she's just looked up at me one day, her little self, and she's like, "Auntie, I don't know what you mean. You're telling me to get my life together." And I had to sit down with her and give her a little talk about how when I tell her that we're about to leave, that we're going to go somewhere soon, and she's still playing with her toys, she hasn't like put out the shoes that she wants to wear by the door or already has her favorite little like backpack or little purse or satchel by the door that she's going to take with her. She's still looking for everything and like I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? So she had to get it together. And so that's why we talk about that when you turn 14, you're starting to develop these emotional skills and habits that help you to work on yourself so that when you start to be around other people that's not just your family, like your husband, like your wife, like your children, like your in-laws, that you will start having some kind of like emotional maturity about you in your life. Okay. Now, this next bullet point, this is going to be actually our next subsection. So, our next subsection is talking about embracing a servant heart, being a helpmate. I just love this section, you guys. Embracing a servant heart, being a helpmate. Now, when we think about the heart of a servant, it's someone who, it's someone who has a heart for other people. It's someone who is ready to serve someone else. Now, when most of us think about a server, we think about someone at a wait staff position at a restaurant, you know, a server, a waitress, a waiter. They're bringing you your food, right? But is that the same as a person having a servant heart? Not exactly. The person who's a waiter or waitress has a job to do. They're bringing you out your food and they have a job to do, right? So yes, they're your server, but it doesn't mean that they have a heart for people. There's a lot of mean restaurant servers out there that could care less about you and your food. And so you as a human being, let's talk a little bit more about like what it means to have a servant heart. Bullet point number 1. This is serving others, helping family members at home as well as whenever you're out somewhere. So, obviously, if you're only 14 years old and you're practicing serving others and having a servant heart, It's going to look a little different than when you become an adult. But that's why you're starting now. That's why we're saying that we are planning our wedding from the beginning, before he proposes, okay? Before we even get a ring on our finger. We're practicing these things at that age so that when we get married, when we're in that relationship, these things aren't just like brand new to us, completely foreign, okay? Serving someone else, making them breakfast, you know, bringing them flowers even though they didn't ask for it. My honey loves to do that, and it's so sweet. I love it. Cleaning whenever things like might not need that much tidying, but just going ahead and making it spruced up anyways, making it special. Maybe like if you're 18 years old or 14 years old, not 18 years old, but yeah, if you're 14 years old and your 14-year-old self and you're serving others, it's like helping around the house, washing dishes, helping mom to maybe take care of your little baby brother, or helping your grandmother whenever she's got a lot of errands to run that day, and maybe going with her to put the groceries in the car rather than her having to lift all of the groceries, okay? So that by the time you get married and you're with your in-laws and you guys are doing all kinds of stuff like Thanksgiving, you'll be able to help be a servant heart, okay? I'll give you an example of me being a servant heart, and it did not go so well. But, we still continue to walk in that. And it didn't go that well, but that's why I want to share it with you, is that because it's not always received when you are trying to be a servant to others. I remember that for Thanksgiving, we were with my in-laws for my very first Thanksgiving with them. And my mother-in-law got very, very upset with me because I had turned the ceiling fan on. Well, it's very, very hot in the place that she lives, even in Thanksgiving. It was like 120 degrees. I'm not kidding. In the end of November, it was very, very hot. And with the oven going, and then like there's no air going, and people, don't have the air conditioning on, it's like, okay, it's hot in here, right? So I turn on the ceiling fan, and I wasn't thinking that we're about to like put the food on the table. And my mother-in-law is like, why are you turning on the ceiling fan? And like turns off the ceiling fan. And so to this day, like nobody lives it down that like, I was just trying to be helpful. Like I was just having my servant heart on at that time. And I just wanted to turn on the ceiling fan because it was very hot in there. And I was just trying to help. So yeah, I did also make a dish that's like from my side of the family. That's like a tradition. And like it wasn't received very well. Like not everybody ate it. And like it's so good. It's cornbread dressing. And like it really hurt my heart really bad. But we pick up and we move on. We keep going. Just because you have a servant heart and you want to do good doesn't mean that it's always received by the person that you are doing it to. Let's keep going. When it comes to embracing a servant heart, being a helpmate. Now, this next bullet point is called teamwork. Yes, teamwork is amazing when you are having that servant heart and you want to help others. It's really amazing to be a team, like working as a family, as a team, or building that family business when you and your husband gets married. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much fun. We are working on our family business right now. We've had one in the past. And it was during 2020 when things were crazy. Started it then, and it didn't turn out super awesome, but like just the camaraderie that we had and like moving forward and putting our ideas together. Yes, it's hard because once again, you don't think the same. But learning how to be patient, learning how to hear the other one, being an active listener, and then responding to the other person's like ideas and thoughts. It's a lot of fun, you guys. It's a lot of fun to have teamwork because you can't always do it all by yourself. You cannot always do it all by yourself. So it's good that you learn how to be a team. And what better way to be a team than when you're 14 years old with your family, right? But then as you get to be an adult and you get married, you get to be a team with your husband as well as all of your family and all of your in-laws. So now all of it is now teamwork. So yeah. So moving on to this next bullet point when it comes to embracing a servant heart, being a helpmate. This is going to be gratitude and encouragement. Ooh, gratitude and encouragement, being an uplifting person to others. It's not always easy to be uplifting to others. People have very difficult days. And that's why when you're 14 years old, you're going to learn how to start practicing this now because your family's not always going to be in a good mood. The people at your school are not always in a good mood. Your teachers are definitely not always in a good mood. And how can you learn how to be a more uplifting person, being a joy to be around? And one of those ways is wearing a smile. I know, super goofy. I'm always goofy. Y'all already know that. But is just by being like a joy yourself, just being happy. You know, it's not always easy for someone like me to change the subject because when I'm listening to someone speak, I just want to hear them out and I don't want to change the subject. But when they're speaking like negative things or really sad stuff and they're constantly going on and on and on about it, I found myself just being a listening ear. I haven't found myself being able to change the subject and just always being that joy to be around. I'm a joy to be around when things are going like super great and like amazing. But when that other person is like super negative or they're having a very, very sad time in their life, I just want to hear them out. I think that they want to be heard. I think they want to be seen. And so I'm more of like this empathetic ear rather than trying to provide like a lot of joy and gratitude towards them. But I'm getting better. This season has been teaching me to do so much better. We've had a loss in our family and it's a very, very deep loss and very, very close family member. And it's been really, really hard on one of our family members. And so I have been being the rock in the family, which is like it's a different role, you know. I've been the rock in the family for different reasons, but to be the rock in the family during such an emotional time, me, I was always the emotional one. So I was always the one crying and stuff like that. I mean, not always, no, but not always. Let's take that back. But I was the one that can get emotional. Like I wear my feelings, you know. So for it to be another person that was always the one that was the uplifting one, always showing so much gratitude, and now that person is very like sad, woe is me, like you know, why did this happen and things like that, and keep reliving the story. I've had to be the one, and I'm so thankful that I've strengthened myself in this area. And if you want to learn how I did that, I'm actually not going to share it in this video, but if you reach out to me, I will actually share with you, like, seriously, what I did to strengthen being that person, even during like such tough times, because I'm proud of myself. I am so proud of myself. I am so happy that I am doing better when it comes to these type of like real life things because life is real. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Our next little subtitle is learning about parenthood early. Learning about parenthood early. That's a really good one because you know, we think that like learning about parenthood is when we become a parent, but actually learning about parenthood is when you are 14 years old. When you are a young teenager, barely 1 year of being a teenager, you started being a teenager at 13. And yeah, learning how to be a parent at that age. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to go out and go have kids. No, that's not what we're talking about here. We're just talking about learning. So let's talk about some of what that means, okay? This is going to be getting advice from parents, grandparents, and even church members. So, getting advice from these people, most of them, well, I hope the ones that you're talking to are more than likely church members that are parents and grandparents, right? So these are people who have cared for tiny babies. They've gone through having childbirth, or they've adopted, or they were a guardianship to a very young child and helped to raise them up to be an adult. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. You're going to get advice from them, but not just any parent. You don't want to just go to any parent. You want to use discernment here. Like, you want to think about parents that you can see have instilled some good qualities in their children. My grandmother used to always say, well, I blame the parents. I blame the parents. Anytime she'd hear about some child acting up at school, in our classes or whatever, or in her kids' classes, she would always say this forever and ever and ever: I blame the parents. And it was because she said that the behavior started at home. It started with the parents. She's like, they're not, just acting a certain way when they're at home, and then when they get to school, now they're acting out. She's like, no, more than likely they are acting out at home, and the parents are ignoring it. The grandparents are ignoring it. And so it's important at 14 years old right now that you start learning early how to be a parent. All right, what's another way you can do this? You can babysit, or you can even help with your younger siblings, like help your parents out with your younger siblings in caring for them and taking care of them, learning how to change diapers, learning how to feed them on time, learning about their different cries and their different moods and things like that, because they're going through a lot with all their hormones and stuff, trying to get balance and everything, and they're growing. So there's a lot happening. So yeah, you want to be babysitting, and as well as even just taking care of your younger siblings if you have any. Okay. Another way to help you to learn how to start young and learning about childhood and things like that is to study child development basics. So, when you are studying child development basics, you are learning how children develop, how they grow. And you're watching that whenever you're babysitting them. You're looking at, oh, like, look at how she learns in comparison to how he learns, or how another girl learns in comparison to the other girl that's learning something. And so you can give kids like blocks and see how they build them. You can see how they are with food. You can watch how they interact with each other, and then learn how to help them resolve conflicts so that they don't continue to bicker, or act out of character and things like that. So this is, you learn about children's development. Now, if I know a lot of people at 14 years old, they are able to get like a small job babysitting other people's kids. I would say that that would be a great skill to pick up, because now you're just not looking at like your siblings, you're looking at the development of all kinds of different children. So if you can get a babysitting job, or a nanny type job, I wouldn't say a live-in nanny, but just a nanny job that you can observe other children, or working, even maybe at a nursery if they will allow it in the place that you live at 14 years old. And certainly when you turn 16, you could definitely be thinking about that as well. Now, you don't have to, but I'm just saying these are some things to help you if you do decide that you want to learn early about parenthood. This last one is going to be, we already mentioned talk to parents, but this one's going to be talking um, to mentors about the responsibility of parenthood. So this now is going more into the responsibility. What is it like to be responsible for someone else's life? That is not easy. That is not easy at all. And that's why it's important that you talk to parents that are like, this is something that they are used to doing. This is something that they're used to doing every single day. They know what it is to make sure that that child doesn't get left at the park, that they remember to pick them up from school, because that doesn't feel good when you get left at school. So talk to them about exactly what it's like to be responsible for a child. Okay. Now, This is going to be another subtitle when it comes to preparing for marriage before he proposes and how to be a mom, wife, and a helpmate. Strengthen faith and values is our next subtitle. Strengthen faith and values. And how can we do that? This first bullet point has to do with parenting and helpmate values from the Bible. Parenting and helpmate values from the Bible. I bet many of you did not know that the Bible actually has instruction on how to parent, how to be a parent, how to be a wife, how to be a husband. Yes, and even how to be a child. There's things in there for you. For children, I know that in the book of Proverbs is a good place for them. And so it is important that you go ahead and start studying these things out now. At 14 years old, start looking at what does the Bible say on what it is to be a good wife, what it is to be a good husband, and on parenthood, how to raise those kids right. Have them in church, Bible studies, little groups with children their age so they can study the Bible together. It's so much fun, you guys. And if you start raising them right now, reading the Bible to them, reading scripture to them, hopefully, they will continue to go the right way and stay on a righteous path. Okay. Our next bullet point is deepen personal beliefs. So, personal beliefs and character development. So, what is important to you? What are your personal beliefs? At 14 years old, you should already start having an idea and developing these things. Now, I'm not saying listening to your friends. I'm saying really getting quiet before yourself and thinking about what is your foundation to life as to why you are here. If you don't have any foundation, then you're going to be putting all your trust and faith in people, and people are going to let you down. If it's not going to be in people, it's going to be in substance abuse that you don't want to go down that road. So it's important for you to have that foundation, that one important aspect of your life that's keeping you grounded. Okay. So hear me out on the importance of deepening your personal faith, value, and morals at this stage. Okay. It's very, very important so that when you do find yourself in that place of knowing that, like, you're ready to have another person in your life, like for marriage, you already know what it is that you want out of you guys as a couple. It's very hard and very difficult for one person to have such a strong belief in one thing and the other person have such a strong belief in another thing, and then try to mesh and become one as a unit, as a family. You both have such different views and values and morals and faith beliefs that trying to push them together is like the magnet just isn't magneting. It's not happening. The magnets are like turned the opposite way and they're not pushing together. Okay. So it's important that you know what it is that you believe. Also, character development. Who are you? I have met people that have no idea who they are, and they're adults. They are full-blown adults, and they have no idea who they are, what they stand for, what they believe. Nothing. Nothing. They only go with the wind. They go with what everybody else tells them that their character is, or what they believe, or what they should think, and you don't want that for yourself. So at 14 years old, you need to start thinking about, who am I? So that when marriage comes around, you're not confused, okay? You are not confused. You are with someone that you are equally yoked with, and like things at the very least, at the very fundamental foundational core, have some semblance to each other, okay? A huge semblance is even better for you, okay? Foundation wise. Character wise, you guys don't have to be the exact same people. to be a couple. That would just be silly, and it could be quite boring. They're, opposites attract for a reason in that way, for characteristic type thing, like character development. Okay. You just need to know who you are. You need to know who you are. And the reason why I say that is because maybe you're not a person that uses any substance or anything like that. Okay. We won't go down the rabbit trail of substance. You know what substances are that you put in your body. Maybe you're the type of person that doesn't do any of that, but then the other person does, and they're okay with partaking in these things anytime or socially or whatever. And now you're being influenced by that person because you're so smitten by them. And that's not a good look. That's not a good thing. Don't do that. Know who you are. And guess what? This person over here is just not the person for you. It's not the person for you. So knowing at 14 and starting to develop your characters, your character development, not characters, because you don't want to, like I said, you're not multiple personalities here. Don't be that. Don't do that. Don't be all things to different people. People want you to do that. It's crazy. Don't do that. Okay. You'll never know who you are. I can't express that enough. Okay. So yeah. I went on a rant on that one. The next part of a bullet point when it comes to strengthening faith and values is seek and find. Oh my gosh. Seek and find those who showcase, a supportive parenting and supportive relationships with one another, supportive family lifestyle, supportive with their spouse. Okay. So if you have parents that are divorced and they're not getting along and they're always fighting and this and that, I'm not saying that you're not going to get any kind of amazing values from them. A lot of people come from divorce. And they still have amazing values for themselves as they grow up and move on into adulthood and marriage. But I will say this: seek and find, go looking for a couple, and it could be a church couple. It could be a church couple who's very, mature and along in their walk, and like they've been walking this thing out for a while, and they're able to exude what it looks like to be supportive of each other. Okay. And they also are supportive of their family. There's not a ton of like bickering every single time that you see them. They're in some kind of argument. They don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to resolve problems. Okay. So you're looking for people who do know how to do those things. You guys, I know that it's a very, very serious conversation right now. I know it's a very, very serious talk, but you've got to remember that we're starting to plan the wedding, the marriage, before he proposes. So well before. We don't want to get into all this. And now we're starting to look for these things. Now we're trying to figure it all out. Okay. So that's why we're taking the time out right now to talk about some of these things. Let me have a sip of tea. This next subtitle is talking about self-care and personal growth. Self-care and personal growth. Now, I know when we think about self-care, we think about spa days and, getting our hair done and our nails done and everything like that. That's most people's idea of like self-care. But we're going to go a little deeper than that, because that's obviously important for being a wife and being a mother and being a helpmate. You do want to look your best. You want to feel good, right? We did talk about food earlier. So obviously you do, like, those things are extremely important, right? But we're going to go a little bit deeper with all of this and the personal growth. We did talk about your characteristic development, which is also a part of personal growth. But we are going to start with our first bullet point. Establish routines for mental, physical, and emotional health. So establishing routines is important. It's important because if you have a routine for like your physical health, then you're not wondering, well, why am I gaining so much weight, or why am I losing so much weight? You have a balance in your life. You are having proper nutrition, right? We talked about nutrition. You see how everything is like coming together: proper nutrition, proper health and exercise, checking in with your mental stability and how you're growing as a human being. All these things are coming together to help you with your self-care and your personal growth. You see? So it's important that you establish routines in all those things. It's great that you know about them, but then now you've got to establish some routines. Okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to go for a run for 20 minutes, right? I'm gonna do a little bit. I was gonna say exercise. I'm gonna do a little bit of stretching on Tuesdays and Thursdays because that's important, right? There's going to be points throughout the day where I go for a walk and just get outside or stretch my body, get some fresh air out there, things like that. And like I said, constantly checking in with yourself. How am I doing? It's important that you do that because it's really awful when people haven't done any kind of personal development or personal growth and then they get married, they get into a situation and it's like they've got all this baggage of problems that they've never learned how to deal with. They've never learned how to have proper nutrition, never learned how to build a routine when it came to like feeding themselves, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like that's literally what it comes down to. Like they haven't developed that, right? They haven't developed how to build an exercise routine and stick to it, right? They haven't figured out how to like have relationships with other people, like friendships and um family ships, you know what I mean, that like are lasting. They're just always a mess. And so we don't want this. We don't want any of that. And so that's why at 18, I always keep saying 18, but of course obviously 18, but that's why starting at 14 we are developing all of these really really good habits and routines so that by the time we're an adult, by the time we get that marriage proposal, we are more well set in like ourself, okay? Which is obviously we're going to be developing for like ever. We can't deny that, you guys. We can't deny that like we actually will be developing for the rest of our life. So we can't think that like these things are going to, how can I say, that they're going to end when we get married. They're not. They're going to be a continuation. Okay. They're going to be a continuation. So let's talk about our next bullet point under self care and personal growth. Develop hobbies or skills that bring joy and fulfillment. Develop hobbies or skills that bring joy and fulfillment. Oh my gosh, I love this one so much because I love my hobbies. My hobbies make me so happy, you guys. As you know, I do a lot of DIYs and a lot of them have to do with, you can use them in weddings, events, parties, or travel with them, whatever. I just love DIYs, okay? And so I even make my own candles. There's one right there. But I just know that like when you have hobbies, you get excited about them. There's something to talk about. They're a conversation starter. It freaks me out when people don't have any hobbies at all. Hobbies are your hobbies. Like they can be hobbies that bore somebody else, but that bring you joy and excitement and fulfillment. That's fine. It's your hobby. It's what you like to do, right? So it's important to make sure you develop those. There are some people who like to paint or do art or even word puzzles. I love word puzzles and I love to color. Like I said, I like to make my own candles. I also just like any kind of arts and crafts. So I play with like the mold, like the molding clay and build like different molds and stuff. I love to go to the beach, so I have a lot of like beach style molds like seashells and things like that. But yeah, like get yourself some hobbies. Get yourself some hobbies. Get yourself some adventures that you like. I also really like to travel. And when I travel, it's a little different than most people travel. I travel like a local, but I live like a tourist. So when I travel, I like to go to where all the local people go. I like to hang out where they go. I don't like to do like the tourist trappy thingies. I like to eat where they like to eat. And when I am at home, I like to live like a tourist. I like to see like what's fabulous about my city, So, like I said, it's a little different than how most people live, but it's something that that brings me joy and brings me happiness. Now, I don't like flying. I don't like flying. I don't like airports anymore. They have taken all the joy out of travel. But I still like traveling. I like getting to the destination. I just am not a fan of like all of the planning that goes into it anymore. I used to like it, but I don't like it anymore. And then I don't like the getting there. I don't like the flight. So road trips are okay. They still are okay. But yeah, make sure that you get some hobbies, things that excite you, things that bring you joy. You guys, I know this was a long one, and thank you for sticking with me. And I want to hear, like, why do you think that it's important for you to plan and prep your wedding starting at age 14 years old? Why would that be important to 14-year-old you? I talked about a lot of reasons why it would be important, and I would like to hear some of your ideas of why you think it's important. It can overlap with my ideas that I gave, but I am very curious as to why you think that it would be important to start planning your wedding at 14 years old and learning how to be a mom, a helpmate, and a wife. You guys, when it comes to cooking and cleaning, it's a lot of work. And that's why people say that, like, being a mom, being a stay-at-home mom, being a wife, being a stay-at-home wife, being a helpmate, it's a job in itself. It really, really is. And because we have parents, we have grandparents, we have people in the house that live with us. And at 14 years old, we can start observing. We can start doing some of the things that we see them doing around the house, like cleaning and cooking and laundry, and understand what it means to be on a schedule. You know, a lot of parents are taking their kids to all kind of activities. And so looking and observing, like, oh, mom always takes my brother to basketball at this time, and like, let me watch her do her routine of getting the sandwiches together. Let me help with her getting the sandwiches together, you know, once I learn how to do it. So just remember, there's a lot of things that you could be learning from your parents right now at this stage in your life. That are going to help you with being a helpmate. We also talk about finances, and a lot of times our parents understand balancing the finances because they're paying for bills. They know what it feels like to have to make sure that bills are paid on time and that they aren't late. And so it's important that we just continue to grow. We continue to grow. But I want to hear, what do you think is important about learning how to be a wife, a mom, a helpmate at this stage of your life, and how it would help with the wedding, with the marriage down the line? I will see you guys in the next episode. I can't wait until the next episode, and I will see you all then. But until then, make sure that you stay close, communicate with me. See you guys soon. Bye.
Lights, camera, action, baby, strike a pose. Phones and cameras out, just watch it all unfold. We're the stars of the show, ain't no need for filters. Living life through the lens, capturing our thrills. Put away your phones and cameras, let the good times roll. Our content creators got it all under control. From weddings to events, parties, travel and brands, we're living the paparazzi life. It's all in our hands. Lights, camera, action, we're ready to go. We're professionals, don't you already know? From TikTok to Instagram, we're taking the lead. Content creator, we're planting seed. Get ready for the social media explosion.